Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and today we're happy to have Ruth. Thanks for coming on the show, Ruth.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
And Randy Watts, I've had on the show before, and he's jumping in to co-host with me today. Thanks, Randy, for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. It's an honor.
So Ruth has been on with Nathan Hinckley in his Bishop's Interview show, and we will provide links below to hear more of her story. But Ruth, give us like a 2-3 minute synopsis of your life,
up to this point, huh?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
So my family were converts to the church, but I was little. I was 9 years old when we joined the church all together. Lived my whole life as a full believing, active member. I did all of the things that anyone else would have done. I went to seminary. I was young women's whatever. And I went to BYU, Idaho, which at the time, because I'm old, was Rick's. Got home, married in the temple, had family, had every calling that a woman could have.
Which temple did you get married in?
I got married in the Mesa, Arizona temple.
Okay. So you grew up in Arizona?
I did not. I grew up in New Mexico, but it was
New
the
Mexico,
closest.
That's right. I knew that.
Yeah, it was the closest temple to us.
Okay.
And Ruth, you're currently living in Surprise?
I am. Surprise, Arizona.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did all that. I mean, I never even had the idea or thought of not being active or a member of the church. Like I was all in is what I always say, but I don't know I don't know another way to convey that. I was all in all the time. My life was centered around the church, the community. We lived in Northern California, so my family wasn't close. So my family became my ward family. I have wonderful friendships that were created in the church. And so it was my whole life. And like most people who leave the church, you start having questions on certain things that just feel weird, or maybe you think you don't understand, and you get the answer of doesn't really matter, or we'll find out in the next life. And so that proverbial shelf, kept sticking things up there on the shelf. And eventually I got to the point where I wasn't feeling fully committed to the church. Not that I had anything big, but I thought it was January of 2023. And I just had a prayer, sat down with God, and I said, I'm going to be the best Mormon I can be. And the way that I think that I can do that is if I know everything that I need to know. I'll just start on the gospel library. Just start reading everything. Maybe, I'm stagnant. I need to grow some more. So I just started looking around, reading talks, reading whatever I could find. And I came upon the gospel essays, which I hadn't really known about. I think in the past, there might've been an article in it in the Ensign at a time, but you read it, but wasn't a big deal. So I started reading them, and almost immediately, I just said, what the heck? This is not what I believe. This is not what I was taught. And it's just here as if it's always been the way it was. And the more I read and the more I stayed within the approved sources, because that's what we're supposed to do. I tried really hard to make it make sense. And there came a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And actually it was, I think the final point for me was the Think Celestial talk by President Nelson. At the time, I already knew that I had doubts and questions. And when he said, I don't remember exactly how he put it, but like, you can't really talk to people who have concerns or doubts, whatever that was. And I looked at my husband.
Don't trust anybody who's not totally faithful.
Yeah. I looked at my husband and I said, you can't trust me anymore? Is that what he's saying? And then in that talk, he's talked about you get to choose what kind of body you get to have forever. And that just was a weird concept to me. I thought, our bodies were going to be restored perfectly. Like that's what my understanding was.
Jesus did that. The resurrection automatically made our bodies perfect.
Yeah. So when the printed version came out, or maybe it was online, I looked at the talk again, and there was a little footnote or took you somewhere, and it referenced doctrines of salvation. Is it Joseph Fielding Smith?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's where he talks about unless you're in the celestial kingdom, there is no need for reproductive organs. I don't know exactly how he said it, but that's the gist of it. And again, I went, what the heck? Like, what? Why are we so concerned about gender then? Like, all of these things were just too much for my brain, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I just said, I told my husband, who is still an active member to this day, I told him I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live. Through all of this process, I was also seeing a therapist and working through my own health issues and realizing that because of all these things that I wasn't dealing with, that I was waiting for the next life to figure things out, they were just causing havoc in my body. And I couldn't live in the cognitive dissonance anymore. I just couldn't do it.
I just looked up that,
Ruth, because you just told my story too. There comes a point where you can accept so much, and then it's like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
the shelf breaks.
Impossible. I'll be
Comes down.
I'll be a Ken doll when I get up there. I won't have any of those parts.
Yeah.
So I was looking up that Doctrines of Salvation came out in 1954, which for us is like a really long time ago. But for President Nelson, he was like 30 and he probably was a doctor and he probably had kids by then. And he probably could read it for the next 30 years and feel confident that if this is what an apostle, a future prophet would say about these things, it has to be the way things really are. And so he would still have that in his mind as he was giving the talk that kind of messed with your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
So what steps did you take to start doing some things around helping yourself physically and mentally?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was already going to a therapist, but I found that I would have to explain. So you have an hour when you're therapy. I spend 40 minutes explaining a concept of Mormonism to him. And then I'd spend 10 minutes explaining to him why it was damaging me. And I thought, this is a waste of my money and time. So I don't remember how I found it, but I found a link to, there's a network of faith transition therapists. And so I found that network, found one that was that can treat in Arizona, but she's in Gilbert. But we just do it online. And I found her, and she was extremely helpful because I didn't have to say this doctrine and explain it. I could just say, oh, you know, the talk good, better, best. This is why I have a perfectionism issue. And she'd go, oh yeah, okay. And then we could work on the issue. And I didn't have to teach her about the doctrine part of it. Part of that also was trying to find an outlet where to put the emotions. She taught me that, and part of the process was, like I said, my health. And she believed that the energy that we have in our bodies, if there's negativity or whatever, it just sits there unless we do something with it. And so I was needing to do something with it. And I, at the time, was not a very good journal keeper. When I first started therapy, I couldn't even identify an emotion. So figuring all of that out came a little steps at a time. But I found comfort on TikTok in the ex-Mormon community. And what I found was so many people feeling like they were alone. We all feel like no one else is going through this. This is just me. And I wanted to be able to be a voice to help people know that they're not alone. So I started.
So you consumed some of the TikTokers' content for a little while, and how did that make you feel?
Like I wasn't crazy. Like there was a community. I lost my community.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah. I'm not the only one that has had these concerns. I'm not the only one who's upset. There's all of the feelings. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm confused. Like, and when you're sitting in it all by yourself, it's hard. I have my children. Some of them had left the church by that time. My children are all adults. But I didn't feel like it was fair to them for me to process my feelings through them, with them. And sometimes we would sit and talk, but I felt like the full deconstruction was not theirs to carry for me. I'd be glad to do it for them now. But I didn't feel like they were the people that I should have been leaning on at the time. So I did. I found great comfort in the TikTok community.
About how long did you listen before you decided to start your own? Like a few weeks,
That's a good
a month?
question. No, probably longer.
Mm-hmm.
When I was still questioning, I was on TikTok, but you know, those ex-Mormon ones would come up and I would quickly pass it. Like, I don't need to know that. I'm not sure I even judged them or thought they shouldn't be doing it. I just know I shouldn't be looking at it. And until that whole falling apart of gospel essay topics, then I allowed myself to watch them.
Did you have favorites?
Did I have favorites? Yeah, Faith Unraveled.
Faith Unraveled. I liked All Those Opposed.
All Those Opposed. Samantha, who we interviewed with Nathan last week. She's Morum with Those Who Mormed.
That's a great one. The friend
Ryan,
of mine is President Please Help Me.
I don't know that one.
You don't know that one? Okay.
There was Rob Tobler. I don't know if he has a different name.
That's what his show was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did President Please Help Me. So he's like,
oh,
help me with all my questions. You know, why did I learn this? And the gospel topics essay say something else or whatever he did.
Yeah. I am working to get him. We're going to be interviewing him soon too. So,
may I ask you a question, Ruth?
Yeah.
Was there one particular piece of doctrine that finally broke that sagging shelf? Was there one thing that was the last straw for you? Polygamy, anything like that? Or was it just, in general, everything just got too heavy and the shelf came crashing down?
Yeah, it was an accumulation. And one thing that I didn't mention is that I have a lot of people like true crime, and I've been a true crime fan, but I'm like one step further, and I just like law. I love watching live trials. I love anything that has to do with law. I watch trials, and then I watch lawyers talk about the trials. So I'm a little bit of a law nerd. But there became a time where there was a bunch of LDS people who were in trouble. So Lori and Chad Daybell, the case that was in Gilbert, Arizona, the sexual abuse case, the SEC, all of these things were just adding up to me because I was in that world of the law and the legal aspects, and they were becoming big national. They were getting national attention.
And you were paying attention.
And I was paying attention. And so I bring it up because like Lori and Chad were temple recommend holders, and they were attending the temple together. And I kept thinking, where is the discernment? Where is the authority? We've been taught that it's there. I would have thought somebody would have been at the door and said, no, I'm sorry, you can't come in. You've killed your children. Maybe they didn't know that part of it, but something should have told them. And so I would say that overall, the accumulation of all the things that I was seeing and hearing, learning about polygamy, learning about the word of wisdom, learning about all of the racism, all of the things, I just saw that there was lack of actual authority from God. And if God was in charge of this church, he was not doing a very good job. And I think that was it. Like that was the final straw was me realizing that if God wasn't in charge, or if God was in charge, I'm not sure I wanted to be a part of that.
So apparently killing children, you can still get into the temple, but
You can.
stay away from that cup of coffee.
Absolutely. And it's
That's right.
horrible.
So how'd you come up with your handle on TikTok?
Yeah. So as I was sitting and thinking about, so my therapist recommended, like, why don't you like TikTok? Why don't you start posting and maybe you can help people that way? And so as I thought about it, I thought about the Spacious Building in the Book of Mormon. And that's where our understanding of it ended there, right? The Spacious Building that's it. You don't want to ever go that way. You don't want to see what's over there.
Those are the mockers.
And I realized that I was at a point in my life where I wanted to know what was beyond the Spacious Building. And so that's where that was the name of my TikTok, was Beyond the Spacious Building. And I did that for a while. And that's actually what I named also the blog that I currently do, is also Beyond the Spacious Building. I think it's fitting. I think I still am looking for what else there is, because I felt for me in Mormonism, it kept me from experience the world fully and learning fully. And now I'm able to do that in whatever way I see fit. And I'm loving every piece of it.
Without the guilt.
Absolutely. Without the guilt.
And you're thinking of writing a book?
I don't know about a book. Maybe I'll put all my blogs together and print it out.
That's right. So Randy is an author. So if you ever need help, you can call Randy.
Absolutely.
You want to decide to do that.
Yeah.
So you got the attention of Bishop Hinckley to come on his show. And was it your blog, or how did you guys?
No, I saw Nathan on Mormon Stories with John Dehlin. And I think from the very first time, I watched a lot of them, obviously, as I think every ex-Mormon does. Maybe they don't. I assume they do. And his story was just so familiar to me. It was my story, just, different states. And so I felt the connection. Go ahead.
Was it a great relief for you? I know the first time I saw John Dehlin's Mormon Stories podcast, I, like you, thought, wait, there's other people going through this? Little did I know how many people are. And so I started watching podcasts like John's and Gene's and, RFM and Bale Reel.
Yeah.
It was just such a cathartic relief for me to realize I'm not the only one doubting here. It was like having, it's a new community.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be a part.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I knew about Mormon Stories for years, but of course I wouldn't have ever watched one as an active member. That never even crossed my mind. But I think I felt, I think maybe, I assume again, I found myself just constantly doing this while I was watching or listening to other people, because I understood exactly what they were saying and how they were feeling without ever understanding that I was feeling that too. So it gave me a place to learn more about myself through other people's experiences. And I think that, so when I watched Nathan, there was that connection that I felt with him. And then I don't know if he came up as like a friend person you might know on Facebook. And I was like, oh, I'll see if he accepts my friend request. And he did. And that's when I saw his writings. He was writing at the time. And at one point, I've done a couple writings in between. Like I wrote a big letter to my stake president when I left, which I've posted publicly. And so I dabbled in writing as I've been going through therapy and figuring out my feelings and stuff like that. And at one point, my husband said, "You should start a blog because you really do write well." And so that's with the encouragement of my TBM husband, I started the blog. So kind of came circle in that Nathan, that's how I met Nathan, was through writing. And then he was saying, I'm going to start a podcast. He wants to be on. And I said, I'm happy to do it whenever you want. And so I was his second interview.
So you had started exchanging messages to him prior.
Mm-hmm.
Were you sharing? Was he reading your blog as well?
I hadn't started the blog yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
It happened pretty quick.
Yeah. So that's what inspired you to write the blog in a way, was his writings on his wall.
Yeah. I thought, well, because
combined
like I
with
said,
everything else, your TikTok.
My husband's like, you're a good writer. And I'm like, well, he seems to be able to process so well through his, and yeah, why don't I do it too? And I didn't, I guess the other thing that encouraged me is, I don't know if other people experience this, but as I went public on TikTok, but nobody I knew saw me on there because I felt anonymous. I felt safe. I felt like I didn't have to defend myself. I could just be myself. But it was whenever the General Relief Society presidency posted the thing about how women have just as much priesthood. I was pissed. I was so mad. I cried. I probably had a little breakdown because I followed what the church told me was my path. And here's a lady who didn't listen to them, is my same age around. She's a little older. So she got the same counsel, yet she's being applauded because she did it all. She is a lawyer. She did what I wanted to do. So I was really mad. And I thought, I can't go in Facebook and complain about this the first time people know that I'm out of the church. So I wrote I posted the thing that I wrote on to my stake president. I posted it on there, and I got, I don't know, a lot of people who I would have not known they were struggling with the church, saying, I'm having the same struggles, or I haven't believed in a long time and I don't know how to tell anybody. So there was this whole community that was just behind everything. And people would ask me, where are the gospel essays? Like, what are they? Like, they don't even know. And so that was the other push for me to write publicly, is to address the gospel essays and give people a place where they could go read my things. And, I mean, I post them through Facebook, but a lot of people have subscribed to it, so they just get it in their email. I just felt like it was a good way for people who have those questions, who don't feel safe in a public way, that they could just go to a blog and read it and nobody would know that they are reading it. So that was the other reason I did it.
Ruth, does your husband continue to support you it sounds like he's supportive about your writing.
He is. It took us a long time to get there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was a roller coaster. He's gotten really good at being able to say, I can see how that hurts you. I can see why you'd feel that way. Without him, we just had a conversation a minute ago, and we had this conversation about authority, and if God was in charge, why is he doing such a bad job? And I left it with him, and I said, because he was thinking, he was like, that's a really hard question. And I said, you don't have to answer it, because I don't want to push him. I've said to him, there's been a time or two where he said, you're making, what you're going through, like, is making me question some things. He's fine. But I've told him, like, don't go down this road if you're not ready, because this is a hard road and it's heartbreaking, and your whole life just falls apart, and you have to be able to do that deconstruction so that you can reconstruct. And if you're not ready for it, like, I wouldn't want anybody to start down this road if they're not truly ready. So he is supportive of me. He knows that writing and doing the podcast or something that is beneficial for me. But he also understands that my ultimate desire is to help those people who feel like they're alone. And so because he knows that my intentions are in a good place, I think it's easier for him to support me in what I'm doing.
That's
The
great.
difficult, the difficult thing for me going down the road, as you put it, was that I had already been thinking that things might not be the way I was taught, right? The Bible is over 2,000 years old. You know, the New Testament is just slightly younger. You know, maybe they got things wrong. Maybe Joseph Smith didn't even get everything right. And I was making allowances for a lot of things. So as I was going down the road, I was making allowances, but just very surface level, like any little allowance would do. Like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like I was even thinking like maybe Adam and Eve, you know, to go along with anthropology and other sciences. Maybe Adam and Eve was 70,000 years ago. And it was just a story that was carried on, you know. I slowly learned all these things, and then eventually, with listening to John Dehlin, and because of COVID, was able to watch a whole bunch at a long period of time, like over most of the summer.
Yeah.
And at the end, I said to my wife, you know, I'm so lonely with this information. You can stay going to church, you can keep paying tithing. I don't even care, but I just need you to know what I know, and then you could do whatever with it, right? And then like 1 week, she was like, okay, I'm out. You know, she stayed Relief Society secretary for like a half a year or longer or something like that. She tried to resign, but it took a long time, you know, and it was just, it was so fast for her. I was like, well, slow down. But you know, like maybe nobody's really ever prepared to go down the road, right?
Yeah.
And so, but on one hand, you know, everybody's road is different. And so
That's true.
I support everybody wherever they are in their
Yeah.
journey, whatever their experiences are. And so, so let's see, what's the rest of your story? You have your own, what's it called? Natasha Bedington or Bedingfield, I can't remember her name, has a thing that says the rest is unwritten.
Yeah.
The story is unwritten. And so, do you have a hint to what your story is in the future? Do you have
I'm currently working on taking back things that I feel I gave up too easily, or things that were taken from me. So let's say that career that I was talking about. I say I'm old. I'm 54 years old, and I would love to go to law school, but I don't know that the cost, the return on my money would be worth it for as long as I could work as a lawyer to pay to go to law school. So I'm doing the next best thing. I've been a small business owner for the last 12 years, and I closed my business in August of this year, and I started back to school in September. And I'm doing a paralegal program. And in Arizona, there is a program called a legal paraprofessional, which I will say it's kind of equivalent to a physician's assistant to a doctor. So a legal paraprofessional can still represent people. They can show up in court. They can sign legal documents, but they don't have to go through all of law school. And it's very limited in the things that they are able to do. So I found this path that can get me to a law career without going to law school. So that's what I'm doing. So I think that's part of my unwritten story, is taking back the things that I feel like I may have missed out on because of choices.
Yeah, trying to find my authentic self after stopping believing the truth claims was really a difficult thing. Like we sang a song in the Oakland Temple pageant that's called "Who Am I?" Right, and it's like now, like I don't know, I don't have the answers. I'm trying to find out what I am, you know, what I'm going to try to do next. So apparently podcasting was something I was going to do instead of law school. or becoming a paralawyer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the meantime, I also opened up a new business. I just started another new business because I'm crazy and I like to be busy, I guess. So I just started a new business 3 weeks ago, and we're already having to expand because it has taken off like crazy. So
Do you want to say what the business is?
yeah, I run a head spa. So I'm an esthetician is what my business before that was. And I went for my birthdays, October 29th, and I went to a head spa. And I came home and I said, I think we need to open a head spa because it was amazing.
Everybody needs this, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience. And I think along the lines of wellness and being in tune with yourself and all of that I've learned, it was one more step to help others do that. Some of the things that I've found about myself that I didn't know really except through therapy was, one, I have some very core values that drive me, and that is integrity, truth, and helping others. And so I think part of the moving forward is making sure that I'm always, that's my authentic self, making sure that I'm always following those. And even though it's through a business, I still feel like I'm helping somebody. If I can help somebody relax and be in a place where they can feel whole or feel peace, even if it's just for an hour out of their day, I think it's a benefit.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Randy.
I saw your head spa on Facebook. Saw some photographs. It looks really up to date, modern, clean, and
Yep.
Is it located in the West Valley as well?
It is. Yeah. It's here in Surprise. We're the first one in Surprise.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I was raised,
Yes.
so
Oh,
that's why I'm familiar with the valley. But
yeah.
wonderful, and it's such a progressive thing. This comfort and taking care of yourself and treating yourself. Not near enough people do that, but I think it's wonderful what you're doing because you're helping people along the way. Maybe you
Yeah.
can whisper in their ear as you're doing their face. The church is not true.
So give me like a 1 minute summary of what a head spa would do or would offer. What types of things?
Like practicality, we just wash your hair. That's the process.
With
So
some loving sort of massaging ways.
Yep. So it's a special sink, and there's this waterfall. It's called a halo that gives you. So I use aromatherapy. I use hydrotherapy. So that special thing is hydrotherapy. And then we do all kinds of different massage techniques. We incorporate some breathing techniques and a peaceful, it really is, to me, I'm more focused on the wellness part of it and the ability to find peace. Like I said, even if it's just for that hour of your day, we're so busy in life that we don't do that very often. So being able to do that, you get massaged, you get your hair washed, what else? Get an arm massage. I don't know.
And how long are you in the chair?
So we offer 30-minute, 50-minute, and 80-minute sessions right now. Yep. Most people, most people do the hour.
Neck muscles.
Yep. We do upper neck, shoulders, and arms as well.
Okay.
The worst day at a head spa is better than the best day not in one.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. As I've been training the gal that's working with me, I was demonstrating one day. She was watching me, and I looked over, and she was so relaxed. And after the client, she's like, "It's even relaxing watching you do it." So, and I also think for me, because it is relaxing for me, and I try and focus on the client, that I'm giving of myself there as well. And so it's healing for me to be there doing it. I do it with intention. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We are already having to expand, and we I'm in a building. They're suites, and so I have one room in this salon suites. But we're already moving into 2 rooms, and we've only been open for 3 weeks. So
That's
Wow.
a good one to have.
yeah,
That's right. Well, thanks, Ruth, for coming on our show. Thanks, Randy, for helping me out.
Of course.
And
yeah,
let's see, it's 2025. The rest of our lives are in front of us. So everybody have a great rest of the year. And check below to see the links I have for the shows that Ruth's been on. And also like and subscribe and do all the things. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Ruth.